He checked his bank account, like he did every morning. Balance: $7,912.47. Normal. Predictable. Nothing new. But 10 minutes later, after his lunch break at work, he checked it again and froze. His hands trembled. His heart pounded. He rubbed his eyes, thinking it had to be a glitch. But it wasn't. His account now showed $3,007,912.47. Someone had mistakenly transferred $3 million to a man who barely made enough to survive each month. And when he discovered who the money belonged to, he had a choice: keep it or return it. He chose the second option, never expecting what that decision would bring him. His name was Ethan Cole, 34 years old, worked as a warehouse loader, lived in a tiny apartment above a noisy bar, drove an old car that coughed more than it ran. He wasn't poor, but life was heavy. Every bill felt like a battle. Every month felt like a test. He dreamed of more: a house, a real vacation, freedom. But dreams cost money. Money he didn't have. He wasn't expecting anything. Not raises, not miracles, not opportunities. Just another gray day in a long chain of gray days, until the universe accidentally dropped $3 million into his lap. Ethan stared at the screen of his banking app. 3 million. 3 million. No, this has to be wrong. He refreshed the page. Same amount. He closed and reopened the app. Same amount. He even called the bank's hotline. Your current balance is $3,007,912.47. His legs nearly gave out. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at nothing. $3 million was enough to wipe away every worry he had. Enough to buy a house, a new car, invest, start a business, start a new life. He could disappear, leave the warehouse job forever, become someone else. But something didn't feel right. Money like this didn't just appear. Someone somewhere had made a huge mistake. And mistakes like these came with consequences. 2 hours later, his phone rang. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Is this Ethan Cole? Yes. This is Caroline Burns, from the Corporate Treasury Division of Holman Industries. Ethan frowned. He had never heard of the company. I'm calling about a significant transfer that was sent to your account earlier today. Ethan swallowed hard. Yeah, I noticed. Caroline inhaled sharply. We made a massive accounting error. Those funds, $3 million, were intended for one of our clients, not you. Ethan felt his stomach drop. We urgently need that money returned, Caroline said. We will provide instructions. Ethan stared at the wall. I haven't touched a cent, he said. Good, Caroline replied, relief filling her voice. Our legal team will contact you. And Ethan, thank you for not spending it. He hung up, then stared at his phone. He did the right thing. So why did it feel like he had just let go of the only miracle that ever found him? For the next 2 days, Ethan received non-stop calls from the company's lawyers, accounting staff, managers, all urging him to sign forms, release the funds, hurry. Some even sounded threatening. If the money isn't returned immediately, you could face legal consequences. He felt crushed under the weight of it. He wanted to do the right thing, but the pressure was suffocating. Finally, he agreed to come to their headquarters and finalize the return. He didn't expect anything, not a reward, not a thank you, just closure, just peace. But fate had other plans. Holman Industries was not a small company. It was a skyscraper, a corporate giant. Ethan sat in a marble lobby, feeling out of place, in his cheap jacket and worn-out shoes. Caroline Burns, the woman from the phone, approached him. You must be Ethan. She shook his hand with surprising warmth. Thank you for coming. Let's get this sorted. She brought him to a conference room. There sat three people: the lawyer, an elderly man in a suit, and an assistant taking notes. Caroline introduced the elderly man. "This is Mr. Richard Holman, the owner of the company." Ethan's palms grew sweaty. Holman studied him quietly, then said, "You had every opportunity to run away with that money." Ethan nodded. "I knew it wasn't mine." Holman leaned forward. "Do you know how many wouldn't return it?" Ethan stayed silent. Holman continued, "That transfer was meant for a very important investment division. A single mistake that could have destroyed months of work." Ethan swallowed. "I just returned what wasn't mine." Silence filled the room. Holman whispered, "Honesty this pure is rare." He stood up, walked over to Ethan, and said words that Ethan would never forget. "Tell me, Ethan, what do you want in life?" Ethan blinked. I don't know. A better job, I guess. A chance to prove myself." Holman nodded slowly. "Good, because I'm about to offer you one." Ethan stared at Mr. Holman, stunned. "A job?" he asked carefully. Holman nodded. "Yes, position here at Holman Industries. Something far beyond warehouse work." Ethan felt heat rising in his chest. He didn't understand. "Why me? I don't have a degree. I'm not special." Holman raised a hand. "You did something most people wouldn't. You returned $3 million that you could have kept." He stepped closer. "Integrity matters more to me than education or experience." Caroline, standing behind Holman, added, "We run an internal program for individuals with strong moral character, people we can trust, people we can build with." Ethan swallowed. "What would the job be?" Holman smiled faintly. "Let's start with a trainee position in our finance compliance division. Entry level, but with growth opportunities." Ethan's jaw tensed. He didn't understand much about finance or compliance, but he understood this. It was a chance, the first real chance he'd ever had. "How much does it pay?" he finally asked. Holman looked him in the eyes. $92,000 a year to start." Ethan nearly choked. He made $32,000 loading boxes. This was triple. Before taxes, before bonuses, before anything else. He felt dizzy. Holman extended a hand. "The money you returned was never about dollars. It was about character. And I reward character." Ethan took a deep breath and shook Holman's hand. 2 weeks later, Ethan stepped into his new workplace, wearing a pressed shirt and a sense of fear he couldn't hide. People in suits walked fast, spoke confidently, carried tablets, managed numbers. He couldn't even imagine. He felt small, a fraud, like he didn't belong. But Caroline guided him. This company was built by people who started with nothing. She told him, "Don't be afraid to learn. Don't be afraid to fail." Ethan stayed late every day, studying financial reports, learning procedures, asking questions. He felt lost, but he pushed through, because for the first time in his life, someone believed in him. After a month, Holman invited him to his office. "Sit," he said warmly. "I've been watching your progress." Ethan felt his stomach twist. Holman continued, "You're learning faster than expected. You're dependable, and your coworkers like you." Ethan blinked. I'm trying my best." Holman nodded. "I know, and I think you're ready for something more." He handed Ethan a folder. Inside was a report about a huge investment project involving multiple companies. "We're auditing this," Holman said. "I want you on the team." Ethan's pulse spiked. "Me? Why me?" Holman's expression darkened slightly. "Because this is sensitive work. We need someone incorruptible." A memory hit Ethan. The $3 million he could have kept. He understood. This man trusted him in ways he didn't trust anyone else. Ethan took the folder. "I'll do it." As Ethan worked through the project files, he noticed something strange. A series of transactions that didn't make sense. Numbers that didn't match. Funds that were diverted to small shell companies with no real operations. The deeper he looked, the more uneasy he felt. This wasn't a mistake. Someone was stealing money, huge amounts of it, from inside Holman Industries. Ethan hesitated. Should he bring it up? If he was wrong, he'd look incompetent. If he was right, then someone dangerous was involved. He decided to talk to Holman. "Sir, I think there's something wrong with the numbers in this report." Holman studied him intently. "What did you find?" Ethan explained everything he noticed. Holman's reaction was ice cold. He didn't blink. He didn't speak. He just listened. When Ethan finished, Holman leaned back. "You realize what you've just uncovered?" Ethan shook his head slowly. Holman whispered, "You exposed a fraud worth tens of millions of dollars." Ethan's breath caught. He didn't expect this at all. Holman stood up. "You've just done something that saved this company. More importantly, you saved hundreds of jobs." Ethan felt overwhelmed. Holman put a hand on his shoulder. "This is why I brought you here. Your honesty, your instincts, your courage." The company launched a full investigation. People were fired. Criminal charges were prepared. Millions were recovered. Ethan was summoned again to Holman's office. He expected thanks. But what Holman said next was something he could not imagine. "Ethan, what you did deserves more than gratitude." Holman pushed a document forward. "This," he said, "is yours." Ethan looked down. It was a check. He blinked, then blinked again. It wasn't a bonus. It wasn't a salary increase. It was a personal reward from Richard Holman himself. A reward worth $250,000. Ethan felt the world tilt. "Sir, this is too much. I can't accept." Holman raised a finger. "No, you can, and you will." He leaned closer. "You returned $3 million when you could have vanished. Then you uncovered a fraud that saved us 20 times that amount." Holman smiled softly. "This isn't charity. This is recognition." Ethan couldn't speak. Tears filled his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. Holman placed a hand on his shoulder. "You earned it." Ethan walked out of Holman's office with the $250,000 check in his hand, and a feeling he couldn't explain. Not pride, not shock, not excitement. Something else. Proof that doing the right thing had finally changed his life. He used the money wisely, paid off all his debts, bought a reliable car, moved into a better apartment, started taking online finance courses, invested part of the money carefully, helped his mother retire early. He didn't buy luxury. He didn't waste a cent. For the first time, life didn't feel like a fight, felt like growth. But the biggest twist was still ahead. Months passed. Ethan became a key employee in the compliance division. His instincts, honesty, and ability to notice what others ignored made him invaluable. Holman often invited him to private meetings to discuss future strategies. One evening, Holman asked him to come to the rooftop of the building. The city glowed below them. "Ethan," Holman said softly, "do you know why I value you so much?" "No, sir," Ethan replied. Holman folded his hands. "When I started this company, I had nothing. Nothing but my reputation. One mistake almost destroyed me, but someone I barely knew returned funds I accidentally sent him." Ethan's eyebrows rose. Holman nodded. "Yes, the same thing that happened to you happened to me 40 years ago." Ethan stared at him. "I built my company because a stranger showed me the power of honesty." He turned to Ethan. "And I decided long ago that if life ever sent me someone like that again, I would change their life the way mine was changed." Ethan's throat tightened. This wasn't just business. It was destiny. Holman handed Ethan an envelope. "This," he said, Is the real thank you. Ethan opened it. Inside was a contract. He scanned the pages. Then his heart nearly stopped. It wasn't a promotion. It wasn't a raise. It was something far, far bigger. Partnership offer. Holman looked at him. Ethan, you will become a 5% shareholder in Holman Industries. Ethan couldn't breathe. 5%. Holman nodded. It's worth about $3, $2 million today, and will be worth far more in the future. Ethan felt tears fill his eyes. Sir, I don't deserve this. Holman gripped his shoulder. You returned $3 million when you needed it most. You saved this company from a massive fraud. You earned this partnership 10 times over. Ethan blinked, trembling. I don't know what to say. Holman smiled warmly. Say you'll keep doing what you've always done. Be the man who chooses honesty when no one is watching. Ethan nodded, voice shaking. I will. Ethan's life transformed completely. He became financially secure. He invested in real estate. He supported charities quietly. He built a fund to help low-income kids study finance. He traveled with his mother. He mentored new employees. He grew into a respected leader. But despite all the success, he stayed humble. People often asked him, what was the moment that changed your life? He always answered, returning money that wasn't mine. Not because of the reward, but because of the man that decision shaped him into. Chapter 14, The Moral. This story isn't about $3 million, or corporate mistakes, or luck. It's about this. Doing the right thing is never a loss. The universe pays back honesty in ways you can't imagine. Ethan returned money he desperately needed. He chose integrity over opportunity, and life rewarded him with something greater than riches, purpose, respect, and a future he never dared to dream of. Sometimes, the biggest fortune comes only after you prove you're ready to handle it. Thank you for staying until the end. If the story touched you, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Your support means more than you know. Until next time.